Hello, fabulous listeners. I am here with the fabulous Robert Hughes, who is also a podcaster, and his show is the Hairdresser Strong Show. And I was a guest on his show, but Rob, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be your guest on the show.
Thank you. We're so excited. So, tell everybody, in case they don't know who you are and what you do, fill everybody in on Robert Hughes.
Okay, well, should I start at the beginning?
Let's do it. Start at the beginning.
Okay.
Like reading Rainbow. Let's go.
Well, I got a part-time job in high school working at the front desk of a hair salon. The position was solely concierge. I would just check people in, check people out. I would book appointments for people on the way out the door, and I would have to tell the stylist that their client is has arrived. And I also had to learn the retail because people would ask me questions about products. And I was a senior in high school, and I did not like the idea of being institutionalized for 4 more years and by going to college. And I got the job at the salon, and it was amazing. Like all the people were so cool. They took me out. They told the door guys that in town that I was 21. I got to go out at 17, and I had left home, so, and I was living with my sister, and she just wanted me to check in to make sure that I wasn't gonna, I didn't have any tests due or papers due for school, and that I was still alive and I had somewhere to sleep, and that was the bar. So I experienced like this world as like a semi-adult being able to like I don't know, it just that's what originally attracted me to the industry. And then um some time went on, maybe like a year, and I started seeing all my friends go off to college, and I started to think about, wait a minute, how long am I gonna screw around here.
Mhm.
And I was assisting. I started off at the front desk doing concierge only. Then I moved in to the desk. I started taking money. I started dealing with phones, and then I became an assistant. And this is over the course of like 4 salons in 3 states, basically. Like I started in Southern Maryland, and I was in Annapolis. I worked in 2 salons in Annapolis. And then I moved to Miami. I worked in 1 salon in Miami. And then I moved back to the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And I got an apprenticeship. So it was like I had to work at all those salons before I actually started my apprenticeship. And that was a year and a half. So it was about 3 years of working throughout the salon, the front of the house, back of the house, and then learning how to actually do hair before I started taking clients as a licensed stylist. I
Were these
immediately,
were these
sorry,
all Paul Mitchell salons or were these just independent salons? You're just like
yeah,
going with the
all
flow.
all independent salons, all mom and pop, single location salons.
Okay.
Uh, Then after I got my license, I had a big falling out with my boss because she said that I had to work 6 days a week to get a return, so they could get a return on investment for training me. And I told her that I got a job teaching at a school, and I was just licensed. And and I totally BS'd my way in there. And I was told by Tanya Farrell that if she's listening, I always remember you saying, like, if you want to be good, learn to teach, because they got to answer all the questions why. You have to be able to answer
Mhm.
people's whys. So you have to learn your stuff. And on top of that, the companies that take you in, they train you. And so you experience more training on an annual basis than any other hairdresser. So I like the way that sounds. I was all about like fast tracking myself. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean there's no fast tracking through the work. You still got to do the work, but there are ways that you can advance your career quickly. So I was interested in technical advancement,
Mm.
and so I got into teaching. They let me teach. I was a day school. It was not a Paul Mitchell school. It's called Graham Webb, and
I remember Graham Webb.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, I do. I really like them. Go ahead.
yeah, taking it back. Yeah,
Yeah.
the products and yeah, so they had a school and I they taught me how to do perms and or sorry, I taught perms, rolling, roller sets, braiding, skin disorders, nail
Mm.
disorders, everything except cutting and coloring. I was and they didn't say that when they hired me. I was like, I just became a teacher. I don't even know how to do hair. And turns out they're like, no, we know you don't know how to do hair, but you can teach this stuff. You can teach the stuff that you passed the test on, but like we can't let you represent us for cutting and color education until you've trained significantly. So for about a year or two, I was going in and taking advanced education classes, couple once or twice a month, and I had a falling out before with my original salon that I did my apprenticeship program, and they didn't like that I took this job. And so I said, well, it's in your best interest that I take this job. I was like, I'm going to be working there 2 days a week. I'm going to be working for you 5 days a week. That's 7 days a week that I'm going to be working, and I'm okay with it. And I feel like you should be too. And she was not interested in that. She was very unhappy with it. She actually like swung at me. I mean, she like cocked back like she was gonna hit me. She didn't
Holy
like that I was
cow. What?
she didn't like that I was putting my foot down and being like, I know what's best for me and you.
Just let me live, honey. Let me live. Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's so
Um,
did you end up like teaching there at that salon? Like, did she allow you to be
No,
you?
this I had
No.
to leave the salon. I
Yeah.
someone who worked at that salon who had just come there, she was part of a big walkout of a bunch of stylists from this one company to the salon that I was doing my apprenticeship program. And she said, "Hey, I can talk I can refer you to the owner of the old salon that I used to work at." And if you want a job, because like this ain't right, like it's not like I'm trying to work 3 days a week and like play video games. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
trying to get ahead. I'm trying to work 5 days a week, and she's upset over the 6 versus 5 days, which I still to this day, I still think that that's a little overkill. uh
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
anyway
Poor
anyway
baby.
that I got introduced to the owner of a it was like a series of connections. The woman didn't actually introduce me, the woman I was working with, she didn't actually introduce me to the owner. She introduced me to one of like their top educators, and he came over for dinner and talked to me, and that's how I got the recommendation to the owner, and the owner basically gave me everything I wanted. He said, "Oh, you teach here." It was the fact that I had put myself into these positions and been willing to like, put in the work that people now all of a sudden this guy's like he saw the value in having someone who worked at a day school, but he also had 15 locations, so he was
Mm.
concerned about. I mean, I only know this in hindsight. At the time I
Of
was just
course.
like, thank you God. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I
Mhm.
knew I needed to take this teaching job, and I knew I couldn't work for these people anymore because of the way they treated me, and I knew I had to go, and it really was just like kind of like it just kind of happened. And then
Mm.
from there, that's really where things kind of took off for my career. I taught at the school for 2 years or so until I felt like my growth had kind of slowed down. It was like hockey stick, like straight up. Like I was growing
Yeah.
so much, but eventually the growth slowed down.
Yeah.
And I decided to pivot at that point. I was teaching for the company that had 15 locations. I was teaching for the school. I was doing hair in the salon, and and then I realized it's time to move on from the school, and I started tinkering with entrepreneurship. And I started producing events where I would get like salons together and stylists to do hair on stage, and it was cool. It was fun. We made no money. It was just a
Mm,
lot of fun. We met a lot of people, and that's when I decided I'm cutting a lot out here, but that's when I decided to go to school for take some business classes, and um, and it wasn't long before I got recruited to go to another salon. And at the time, not COVID, but 2008 recession had hit,
mm-hmm.
and the crash caused all of my teaching to dry up. Because like when I stopped teaching for Graham Webb and I started teaching for this company, but I also wrote programs, and basically I was doing recruiting, going to the schools on a regular basis, talking to the students, getting them into a program that I would put them through to assess them and see if we wanted to hire them. So like all of that dried up because the owner was
Mm-hmm.
like, I think we're just gonna like hold off on anything extra. You can pick up some extra days in the salon to make us both money,
Mm-hmm.
and that was 2008. 2008 crushed me. I lost the person that I was with at the time. That relationship fell apart. So which means I had to move out. But I was only working 2.5 days a week in the salon because all my other income was coming from education. And it was pretty rough. I was definitely not realizing how I was struggling with like a little bit of depression from losing all that. And I decided it was time to make a change in my life and step it up and start rebuilding my book. And then I got recruited to go to a high-end salon in Georgetown, which is kind of like the fancy area in
Yeah.
DC. And um, some guy was moving out of state, and he had a full book. And at the time, I think I was making like $32,000 a year, maybe 28. I think less than 40. I can't remember exactly, but they told me that that guy had an $80,000 W-2, and I was like sold. I'm like, this is gonna. I mean, one, it never forced me to deal with the darkness of my emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
like that was truly like, a gift from God saying like, hey, like we got something else for you. But I realized in hindsight I never really dealt with it because that came out later in life. Um, so I highly recommend anybody like, have a therapist or a coach or something like that. We talked about that in our
Yeah.
interview
Yeah, we
where it's
did.
like everyone needs to have somebody to talk to and somebody to like hold their hand when they need their hand held and kick their ass when they need their ass kicked. And
100,
you know
100%. I love how you're sharing your story and there's all of this like upward trajectory and you're like going, 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 and you're having all these different opportunities. You know, hearing it from this side, right? Not going through it, experiencing it, it's like, oh wow, it just like came to him. But when you're living it and you're like, yeah, it came to me, but there was a lot of uncertainty and it's just happening. Like you're saying, like God is just like leading the way. Like I'm just kind of here. I'm just
yeah.
kind of going. So with all of that, like what would you say was like your biggest struggle and or your biggest failure in all of that?
My biggest failure in all of that was probably, well, one, I mean, I definitely didn't deal with the loss of this relationship very well. It took about 5 years before I
Mm,
realized it, and we actually reconnected and had a summer where I got my closure, and that's like a whole nother story.
yeah.
But it took 5 years for me to realize that every relationship I had was doomed from the beginning. Like, and in hindsight, I realized that because like I was always holding a candle to this person that got away, and I didn't know that at the time. So like that deal with your shit. I think that that's important. It's hard though because like we got bills to pay, and like I
Mhm.
got dreams and I just want to keep on chasing them. And but I will say this, when I got recruited to go into the high-end salon into a full book, I was so scared of the confrontation by telling my boss that I was working for at the time, who gave me everything I wanted to have from that other salon where I was arguably not being treated and talked to the way that maybe I should have been. Um, that's a big mistake. Like I definitely there's a bridge there that I don't know if I could still walk across it. Maybe might have to like throw a rope and like swing and then climb up the rope to get to the other side. But I don't know that it's completely burnt, but it's pretty bad. And I felt really, really terrible. I thought he was out of town. Maybe I hoped he was out of town. Maybe I decided that I heard someone say he was out of town and I was like, I'm just gonna send him an email. And then he called me and was like, what's going on? And so that was a big mistake. And I definitely recommend people do not keep things like that and be, you know, I don't know. I could have done a better job. I could have at least called him and talked to him about it, gave him a chance to talk me out of it or counter it or wish me luck. Um, and you said my biggest failure, my what?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's struggle and a failure. I think
Struggle, yeah.
you just said your struggle, I think.
Yeah. I think well, I don't know. Because like my story like that right there gets me to that's the foundation of who I am today because
Yeah.
from there I was at the high-end salon for 10 years, almost 10 years and we found out towards the end of that period that the opaque practices from the boss and the some of the tactics and communication way of communicating were very effective in keeping us from discovering that when we run our own numbers that it's not just a rounding error. It turns out they were changing our compensation, a little bit at a time. Every couple years, they would raise the price like $10, but only give us like $3. And they only told us that once when I first started. And I try to bring it to everyone's attention, being like, I just started, but like they just told me that I'm getting a demotion. And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, they said it was 90. We're going to $100 a haircut. That $10, you're only going to get $3 of that $10. So you get like whatever your commission is on 90, which I was told it was 47%, and then 30% on the 100, or sorry, on the extra 10 to get to 100. So you get 47% on 90, 30% on 10, and that is less than 47%. And so like I was trying to tell my coworkers, it's like you realize we're getting less money, we're getting a demotion. And they're like, no, the prices are going up, we're getting more money in our pocket. I'm like, at a lower rate, which is we're not paid by per head, we're not paid $27.36 per head of hair. We're paid 47% of each haircut, so where is, what's going on? But no one wanted to hear the new guy who thinks he's smart. And
Mm.
I was just like so grateful to be in this new job where I'm literally doubling my income overnight. And so I just decided to just listen to my coworkers and ignore it. And it was fine. Everything was good for many years. And then they made a fatal mistake in not staying on top of their business. They got old and they stopped being around that much. So all you salon owners out there, you better
Mhm.
check yourself because if you don't have systems in place for that transition, then you might get yourself caught up, and especially if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, or you're keeping things from your employees, that shit will come out. So they had somebody left, someone moved out of town, and then at the same time it was a colorist, and another colorist wanted to really stick it to them because he had had enough when he was like he'd been working there for like 20 years and he wanted to take Saturdays off and they wouldn't let him take Saturdays off. This is like the epitome of old school, by the way. Like they're
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
these guys are super, they've owned the salon for like 45 years. And everything was like work, 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 work. and they made the assistants do things like go and clean their house, when if they didn't have enough work for them at the salon, and they would do it. And I mean, I was there not as an assistant, but these are the people I'm working for. And so they kept their books on a system that we could not access, and was very archaic. It was like definitely something from like one of the first original operating systems. I would be surprised if it wasn't. um
Oh my
but
goodness. I'm
anyway,
so happy you're sharing that because that gives such a perspective that this generation of stylists, even myself, that like I knew it was that way, but the assistants would go clean their house. Are you kidding me? And
yeah,
so
go clean out the attic.
like that's crazy to me. But that is awesome perspective that these stylists need to know now, and salon owners especially, like put systems in place. You hear it all the time. It's becoming like a buzzword, but it's so freaking true. Like get yourself together, be transparent, talk to your team. This isn't communism. This is openness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, so basically, long story short, they lost two colorists all at once, and they are departmentalized, and
Yeah.
I had was able to keep some of my color clients, but they were very effective at training the front desk to tell my color clients that I'm busy or that I don't do color. And so like a year before all this went down, maybe 2 years, or maybe 3 years, I don't know, maybe even longer than that, because I had asked the colorist to teach me balayage, and I was bringing in clients, models
Mm.
to practice, and that happened. Maybe that was like 4 years before all this went down, because when those two colorists left, they're like, "Oh, Robert's doing color. We'll just give the clients to Robert." And I was like, "Sweet," like my income went up. And little did I know, God was also looking out for me here, because by not doing one, that meant that the client is my client. But if I only do one, they're the salon's client, or the client has to decide. Like if I leave and the colorist stays, they got to pick between me and the colorist. Statistics show that the majority of the time they will pick the colorist when they leave. So what I had was like a gift, because another, year or two went by, and then all of a sudden we had this slip of the tongue. The owner, I don't think he realized what he was saying when he answered the question honestly, how much do I get for this haircut? And it was 43%. And he said it's been 43% for a long time. And someone said, no, it's 47%. And he said, it hasn't been 47% for 13 years. And I was like, wait a minute. I got hired 9.5 years ago. You told me 47%. He goes, no, you've never been 47%.
Oh man, this is terrible. It just hurts my heart. Like,
Like, what
oh
are you
man.
talking about? Are you
Yeah.
stupid? I'm like, I'm not the one that's old, dude.
Oh no. Oh no. This is what it is. Get systems, be clear,
Oh.
write it
Well, and then
down.
also like,
Oh my
I
God.
think
Yeah.
I would like something in writing when
Done.
if I ever go anywhere else, or I'll just I don't know, or something. I don't know. I need to see it somewhere where I can reference it later on. But
So how did the hairdresser strong show come about? Like this is all your history behind the chair, but like now let's fast forward to now. Like how did this happen?
so it happened really soon after we found out that we had been being lied to or
Mm,
misled about our income, depending on
who
who's
you talk
listening.
to?
And I I myself and five other stylists and one assistant, we tried to talk to them. They refused to talk to us, and they said they tried to divide us and conquer us, and that didn't work. So more than half of us walked one block down the street to another Guy Givens thing. There was a salon open where the owner, I had played poker with him in the past. He had just renovated within a few years, beautiful salon, and no employees. He had just lost like a couple of stylists, and his partner had moved to Turkey, so like he was still trying to figure out ownership, without his partner, and was still figuring out employees and stuff. And we went over and we're like, "Yo, this is what's happening," and we cut a deal, and we left. And when we left 10 weeks before COVID hit. And so we got, luckily, another gift from God. Like, one of the other stylists we were all supposed to wait a couple more weeks to tell him everything once we finalized every single nuance of the deal. And she was like, "I can't take it anymore. They want to have a meeting with us. I'm going to tell them tonight." And we've negotiated the most important part, which is how we're getting paid. We don't need to negotiate anymore. And I was like, "Well, you're making a unilateral decision for everybody, but I guess this is what we're doing." And thank God that we did, because if she hadn't made that decision, then we would have had less than 10 weeks to get stylist
Mm,
clients in. And 10 weeks is enough time to get every single person in, almost 99% of people, and maybe 90% of people in at least once. We don't have a lot of 12-week, three times, two times a year types clients. And if not twice. So when COVID shut us down, we had our people, and then all that stuff was in the past, because now we had this new frontier to
mm,
figure out, how do we survive
mhm,
COVID? Well, I got COVID in August of 2020. I was the first person that I knew that had COVID. I was the first person in our entire industry that I knew that had COVID.
mm,
And I screwed up because I didn't have shutdown protocols. The PBA, the health department, the CDC, not one of those
mhm,
organizations gave you shutdown protocols. They gave you preventative protocols, which I was so proud that I was listening to the government speak. But when I realized that I wasn't thinking critical about my own business or the people that rely on me, that's when I realized that I had failed tremendously. So after I got better, I decided I needed to share my experience and share what our closing shutdown protocols should have been, and hope that no one will make the same mistake. And that was the first podcast that I ever did, was to share with people what happened to me, and in hopes that it won't happen to them. And the impact, the people who reached out to me and messaged me and asked me, it wasn't huge, but it was more than nothing. And people looked at me as a person that could help them, and I really loved that. And I liked the whole media thing, and so I decided I would get started. I was doing it with another guy, and it was just too demanding for us to be able to coordinate our schedules. Like, our times just didn't align. So he decided to leave. I recruited my wife to come on and be my partner, as her background is in events, and she was just getting into marketing, and doing like a bunch of like classes and certification courses and stuff. So it made sense for her at the time to take on a project to have as a portfolio project. And that is how the Hairdresser Strong today, that's how it came. Now, what I decided, I needed a topic. So the main topic was, I was still going into schools talking to the students, but I had skipped about 8 years of talking to the students. So like, I had only started talking to the students about a year or two before we left to go to our new salon,
mhm,
and which I manage. And I was like, well, I still want to go to see the students, and the students have this huge expectation gap from the salon owners. Like, the salon owners and the students are on completely different planets. Like,
mhm,
the kids are getting out of school and getting so disappointed with the realities of the industry. And when you go in there and you tell them the realities of the industry, they look at you like you're a bad person or a mean person. And so I was like, maybe this is the topic of the show. Maybe at the core, my background is recruiting, it's in
mhm,
education, day school, advanced academy. So like, I've always been part of that process, from school to salon to behind the chair.
mhm,
And so I was like, why don't I just like, go in with my wheelhouse? This is like my space, and these, like, I like going to the schools, I like talking to the students, and I like talking to salon owners. And So yeah, I started the first thing I did was a series, Salon versus Suite. I asked two salon owners, two suite owners, and two students and two salon stylists what the pros and cons were of salon versus suite. And I ran a whole series on that. And that was received really well. And then it just kind of like it's been blowing up from here. I have to give a special shout out to Corey and Tony at Hairdresser. If it wasn't for them, taking us under their wing and helping us out. And we wouldn't have gotten some of the pretty amazing guests on our show. And they've just been very helpful in so many things. I actually
I
worked with them when I left that salon that my trainer cocked back like she was going to hit me and went to this other salon. I worked with them. They were the senior stylist when I was like a newer stylist. So we worked in the salon together, so we had that relationship. It goes relationships, relationships, relationships.
that is what I am hearing in this whole thing. I love the hair industry guys. I talk to them on threads like all the time. And I love that you guys are so connected. That this is freaking amazing. I am loving it because people need to hear relationships are everything. You cannot be burning your bridges. And salon owners, what are you doing? Like, go read the law. I know nobody likes to read and nobody likes to write anything down, but like you're really running a fine line here
Oh,
with all this
well, hold
stuff.
on. Wait. So there is a new topic that I will be talking about more.
I'm
So
excited.
this is the first time I'm going to be talking about it.
Oh, we got
Uh,
the scoop. Okay.
it
Okay.
came up in another conversation where someone said something, and it's really been on my mind. And you know, I know firsthand that there's toxicity in our industry. There's
Hmm.
toxic salon owners. I know firsthand.
Hmm.
And when I wasn't experiencing it firsthand, I saw it happening to coworkers. And maybe I didn't know what it was at the time. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what I thought of it at the time. I was like, oh snap, they're getting their shit thrown out the front door
Like,
and the cops are getting called, It's like, what is this? All kinds of
yeah.
crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
however, I want to also really say that like the world of social media is great for finding your tribe where you could talk about the things that are on your mind the most. And uh however, I think that we sometimes think that that is like pure and absolute, and that's exactly what we're experiencing in social media. But what I've found through the last 3 years of trying to dig into this situation, the differences between what the rising stylists see for their future and what the salon owners need for their business, um, I found that the information we consume is heavily influenced by influencers, people who, are out there doing what we're doing.
Hmm.
And I find that the marketing funnel, the awareness, the likes, click, subscribe, buy now, process that we want everybody to follow on social media, well, it turns out that things that are a negative experience that people can drum up and be like, yeah, yeah, F that, down with that. I don't like that. Me neither. I'm a victim. You're a victim too.
Hmm.
And it's like that kind of stuff seems to be amplified outside of reality. Like I think that it's important that everyone knows and is on notice that there are toxic salon owners out there, but so far, I can't say that's half or more of the salon owners that I've met. So I think that this whole narrative around toxic salon owners could potentially be doing a disservice to the salon owners who are
Hmm.
trying hard, and they want to be better. And just because a salon owner expects their apprentices slash assistants to clean the bathrooms and do laundry and mop the floors does not make them a toxic salon owner. Okay, so I think it's really important that we be careful. Like, yes, I've been a victim. I have seen it happen to others, and I know that it's real. However, I do want to make sure that I recognize all the awesome, amazing salon owners that are out there bending over backwards, bleeding and sweating and crying just so that you can have a job. I want to make sure that that
Yeah.
is, I've said that. Now, all the salon owners who are not, you've been warned. Like
Mm.
your business is going down, and I promise you that. Period. Full stop. Because no way you're going to get away with it anymore. No young person's going to want to work for you. And all you people who are not young that are listening or watching this, then I think that you need to make sure that you do your homework. And
Yeah.
if there's a job opening at the salon and no one else is working there, I don't know. I say that because the salon that I came from, they they've hired people since then, and
Yeah.
they have changed their ways. They did change their ways. They changed their operating system. They gave everyone a raise to 50%, and now they can all check their books on an app on their phone.
Yes.
So
See,
like
it's beautiful.
we had to deal with it. We had to confront it. We had to do what we did so that they were put on notice. If they wanted to
Yes.
keep their business, they had to make changes. Would I go and work for them now? No. But would I recommend you go and work for them? No. But would I stand outside their door and try to warn everybody not to go work there? No, because as far as I know, the things that I had issues with, they've changed. So anyway, that's just a
No, I love
it's a
that
dose of
because
reality right there.
I love it. I love it because I actually did talk about that in one of my earlier episodes that I myself, we had salon walkouts. COVID was a crazy time. Like that was such a pivotal moment in for everybody. Absolutely everybody. And you learn so much about yourself when you have a business. It doesn't matter what kind it is. That is like the ultimate self-help discovery thing that you can have. And you change if you don't change, you will die in this industry. Like you will just fizzle out. So you got to change. You got to go to therapy, go to counseling, figure out why people are leaving you both in relationships and business, you know? And
Yeah.
you mentioned that like your relationships were suffering, you were like kind of hopping around, like we at the end of the day we're human. Like we do have other interests outside of the salon, and if we don't fix our problems, it's gonna come out. So with that, and because you do speak to salon owners and rising stars, like what is a trait that they absolutely need? They need to have it
Who?
to get anywhere. Stylists, salon owners. I know it's different for
Oh.
both, but
Well, I would say for anybody that's in school, or early in their very early, like first year, maybe two of their career, if you're a rising stylist, my recommendation is to go shadow at salons. Look, find out where your local salons are, hit them up, ask them to shadow. There is no better education than real world experience. And if you can't get experience because you can't afford to take a job making that pays maybe minimum wage or a little more than minimum wage because you already got a job while you're in school, I get it. So if you could try to shadow at one salon a week or every other week for 2 to 4 hours, then you won't be necessarily sacrificing very much money, if any at all, because you might be able to find somebody that host you at a time when it's convenient for you. That will set you up for success because you will learn the things that you don't even know you don't know, and what that mainly is how do these people operate? And if someone isn't going to let you shadow, do you really want to work there? Like why wouldn't they want you to shadow? Like now if there are a few salons, and I'm not going to name them, that I know that might not like shadowing because of COVID. They're still worried about COVID. They still space out. Sometimes they still feel the mask. Now, those are not who I'm talking about. But anybody else who's got a salon that it's not going to be like I mean, a suite might be a little difficult to go and shadow at, but yeah, there are caveats to my statement, but nonetheless, go and shadow. Probably only want to work somewhere that will let you shadow. figure out which questions are important to you. Like, what is your pathway to growth? Like, what are my steps that I need? What are my deliverables? What do I need to bring you? How do you determine when I can move to the next step? And what are each of the steps? If they don't have it in writing, you bring a notepad and you write it down and then show it to them and say, is this my process? Just to make
Mm,
sure we're on the same page. And then like salon owners, be ready for people to ask questions about your business. Like the young people, they want a clearly, they only, you can listen to all these national surveys and all these polls and stuff. And I think it's great that there's all that data out there. I mean, I do a news episode every like 2 weeks or something where I talk about data that's relevant to the industry. But I have to say that when it comes down to it, the kids, and I can't, shouldn't call them kids, the rising stylists that I talk to, when I press them and push them enough on what's important, it's not paid time off, it's not health care, it's not being able to like call out last minute and cancel all my clients because I need a mental health day. Like these are like the stereotypes are
mhm,
that they're entitled, they're lazy, and they don't want to work hard, and they'll call out or not show up if they blink too hard. Now, I don't agree with that. I
mhm.
think that social media, this is another example of how social media has amplified the negative. And so, like, I think that we all see this negative stuff. And what I've discovered is, in my opinion and experience, they want two things. They want a safe space where they can be themselves and they can feel taken care of and they can
Mhm.
grow, and they're not going to be exploited or discriminated against. And then they want a mentorship with a clearly defined
Mhm.
pathway to growth. If you can deliver on those two things, then I think that you're going to be okay. And just like maybe use some chat GBT and update some of your copy on your website and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and say,
Yeah.
make this sound like appealing to Gen Z or something like that. I highly recommend that. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't, everybody else, suite owners, and I think the most important thing based on all the interviews that I've done is focusing, remembering that you are by yourself and you need community, and don't
Mm,
sleep on community. That is the most important
yeah.
thing. They seem very good about education for the most part, most of the people I talk to, but isolation is a thing that most of them complain about. And then salon stylists. Um, salon stylist, it's like I feel like, just stay on top of your game, take care, but focus on the customer. The customer experience is so important.
Yeah.
And that's another example of social media doesn't do a good job teaching the industry. Like how many people how big of a narrative on social media is how amazing other humans are, and how amazing it is to work with other people, and how much I love people, and how much I love serving my customer. You don't hear enough of that, but like
Mm-mm.
literally, if you don't have that, you won't make the big bucks. So like, what is that about? So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my soapbox and my advice and my opinion and my perspective.
I love that. Okay, so this is probably one of my more favorite questions. What is an insult that you have gotten that you are so proud of?
An insult that was I proud of it when I got the insult?
No,
So
no,
like
you're probably
later,
like taken back. Don't think too hard about it.
um, I don't know. I don't know. I've heard a couple of things that I'm like, I don't know that I like that, but I kind of like that. I've had people tell me I'm intimidating. And like I don't want to be considered intimidating, but I kind of like knowing that I can be intimidating, like as a defensive mechanism.
That is so perfect. Was this like, were these clients or were these like coworkers?
I hear clients, coworkers, Like if I say, oh, so and so didn't respond well to this, they said, well, you could be a little intimidating. And so
Okay.
like I appreciate them saying that because I'm like, I didn't notice that about myself. So like I appreciate people telling me if there's food in my teeth, same
Right.
thing. Also, yeah, that's the negative. I guess that's one of them. Or when I was younger, uh, I used to be made fun of because I have a big nose, and I totally feel like I grew into my nose, and I'm like, never
People
would
are
feel that way.
ridiculous. People are so mean. Oh my goodness. Your nose is fine.
I think so, but I mean, I was really skinny and I shot up really fast when I was
Oh,
younger,
okay.
and that's when I was made fun of. And then, oh, Mr. Clean. They used to call me Mr. Clean when I was younger, because I didn't like to get dirty at all. And that led to me being called Pretty Boy in high school because I used to like dress up and every single day, never wore jeans, definitely didn't have any facial hair. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
I don't like to get dirty either. And I signed up for one of those mud runs.
Oh yeah.
It's happening in May, April and May, and it's like
Nice.
it's a thing. It is a thing for me. I get where you're coming from. I need to take pictures of myself in the mud, and then I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Oh, then you'll want to do another one.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll get back to you on that. So, okay, here's another question. So, working in this industry, we learn a lot about people of like all all kinds. So, what is a lesson that you have learned as a hairdresser that you wish other people in other professions would also learn?
Um, a question that I'm sorry, say it again.
A lesson. What's a
A lesson.
lesson that
Okay.
you've learned that other people need to learn
As a hairdresser.
as a hairdresser about
And
life?
but thinking about the general public.
Yeah,
Okay.
like what
Okay.
does like a lawyer have to learn that a hairdresser
Okay.
has mastered?
Okay. That's a great question. I love that question. Okay. Um, Interesting. What lesson? I mean, first and foremost, the one thing that comes up a lot is that uh, every single person on this planet should feel like it's their duty to society to work a customer service job
Mm,
for a period of time, at least once in their life,
yes.
because I think that empathy and the ability to like manage your own emotions in the face of someone else's emotional outburst
Yes.
and taking things personally, like everything is personal. It's like, come on, like those are the lessons I think that we could benefit widely from society. And also like I don't know, as a hairdresser, I don't know that I'm the same as other hairdressers. I'm sure there's plenty of hairdressers that are same, but I don't know that this is like a swath of hairdressing. My journey as a hairdresser, um, sorry, my dog.
I know. My dog,
My
let
okay,
me
my wife just got home, so that's why she's
okay.
playing. Okay, so the last thing is shoot, I forgot what I was saying.
The
Uh
customer service. They need to have customer service. Like
yep,
everybody.
empathy. Oh, and learning how to not argue with
Oh,
someone who says something that you disagree with.
oh, that's such a good one.
And
That
hold
is
on,
such a good one.
I got to tag on to that one. And not correcting people just so that you can be right. It's like, I have the Kerastase shampoo. You mean Kerastase? It's like, and
That's
what?
another one that you should do at the hair show. That
Oh,
is it
yeah.
Kerastase or Kerastase?
It's like, come on. Like, do you really feel like you need to correct people? I had a boss once, and this is one of the bosses that was at the salon that I was the very last employer that I'll ever have in terms of a salon. He said something that I'll never forget. And this is a very valuable lesson that I think every single person needs to pay attention to is sometimes when you're trying to be right, even if you know you're right, you're wrong.
Mm,
If you try to make other people wrong, if you're trying to point out, hey, everyone, pay attention to me, I'm right here. It's like that's not the person you want to be.
mm,
And if it is, then that's I guess that's part of the lesson that I learned is like that is no matter what you think, like that is not the person you want to be. And you should be you should be concerned with how other people view you in certain lights. Maybe you shouldn't be worried about everything, but I think like basic etiquette, I guess I got a lot of lessons that I've learned as a hairdresser that I think the society could benefit from, like etiquette, like when is it appropriate to yell? When is it appropriate to like call somebody out for something? When is it appropriate to like be a little quiet? When is it appropriate to lean in and whisper to somebody? When is, all these things, I think etiquette is very important as well.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So, just like a side topic, what is going on with this Bitcoin stylist?
Okay.
What is this? I saw it
Side
when we
top.
logged in and I was like, whoa, what?
So this is going to be on the show?
Yes.
Okay. So Bitcoin, so when I had double neck surgery, so all you young people out there, take care of your body, get lots of sleep, and because and like really focus on your posture and pay attention to
Hold on.
industry aligned.
Let me. Yes, I
They're
love them.
Yeah, they're
Gonna just
great.
sit up right now. Okay.
Yeah. So so Bitcoin is, if you read the white paper, you understand what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a new technology that has the ability to enable people to send money across the internet.
Hmm.
And that's revolutionary. Most people think that when they buy DoorDash, they're sending money over the internet. That's not what's happening. When you use DoorDash or an online payment processor, there's multiple middlemen in between this transaction. It causes costs to go up for everything.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of other benefits to the underlying technology. So I read this. I read about a money like just like gold that no one can control or manipulate. And manipulation, I'm sure some people would disagree with that word, but no one can control it. And that was appealing to me because like I growing up, I am my father's son, and my father's politics, and I'm my mother's son, and the politics in the house were be careful, big brother. Watch out for the government. So I
Hmm.
grew up, and when I read about this, I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm a victim of 2008 greed, where I lost everything. I mean, the beginning of my story is I lost everything, and that was a very dark, bad time. And that was because of 2008. And that's actually what fueled me to go get my degree in business and then eventually
Hmm.
study finance. And I read up on the 2008 crash. And so, like, if you went through something like that and you heard about Bitcoin, I'd be surprised if you didn't think that there might be something there. And so like I just thought, there's sounds like a really interesting thing. And then I'm a poker player, and under the Obama administration, the government thought it was within their rights to restrict us from being able to play poker online, and they utilized their administrative powers to strangle out the access to the banking system for online gambling companies. It was called Operation Choke Point. And they've done it throughout the years with gun companies, if the administration doesn't like gun
Mm.
manufacturers or fossil fuels. So they'll try to restrict their access to capital, which hurts their business, etc. It's a very effective way of like managing of achieving the results that they achieved. Well, I didn't agree with this rule that came out, so I decided I was still going to play online poker, and I was just going to use this thing called Bitcoin because it's the government can't control it.
Oh my
And so
God.
for
This
many
is
years,
great.
I was a user of Bitcoin, and but never an investor. I was just a user. And then the pandemic hit, and within that first week, I was like, okay, when I lost everything the first time, I did not see it coming. And I didn't have any cash. Because, like, if you would have bought after the 2008 crash, you made so much money. So much money. So, like, anybody who has cash on the sidelines
Mhm.
and isn't like stretching themselves out too much financially, they had the opportunity to take advantage of the crash. Most money is made in crises. Most money isn't made in the good time. You make your money like there's a saying, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. That's the Warren Buffett statement. So anyway, I thought, hey, this is a crisis. I'm gonna make some moves. So I bought a bunch of gold. I bought some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, and and I think some other commodities. And then I turned around and focused on the salon because the salon had all of my attention because dealing with the shutdown and
Mhm.
customers needing their color kits made and stuff. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I think you probably, if you don't know the story, what happened from the time, so Bitcoin was trading at like $5,000 to $8,000 when COVID hit. And within a year, it was up to like 40,000 or something. And it eventually
Okay.
went up to 69,000. So that was like a 10x on money almost,
Oh my
depending on what you bought
God.
in. So I made a bunch of money and decided that I wanted to take all the money out. And before I invested anymore, I would do some research and learn about crypto. And I had the neck surgery coming up, and I was laid up for 6 weeks, 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And all I did was learn about crypto. And I came back to work, and it was like coming out of a rabbit hole. And like, no, I just not the same person anymore.
So
Like,
you are a billionaire Bitcoin person.
no,
No?
no.
Okay. Okay.
10x is not enough money.
I
Like, you
had to
can,
I had to throw it out there. I had to see what would happen.
no, I mean, like if I would have put $100,000 in it, but I didn't have that kind. One, I don't have that kind of money, and two, I don't have that kind of risk tolerance. So, like,
Hmm.
how much money, what percentage of money would you be willing to put into something super risky that you don't know anything about? Then it's probably not that large of money. Like if you're going to put more than 20% of all your net worth of all your assets, that's a big risk. I was putting in small potatoes. I made like 10 grand, but but what I learned in my rabbit hole was that this is definitely happening. And
Wow. That's so cool.
just get out of the way. And like we just hit $52,000 yesterday. So it crashed from 69 all the way to 16, and there's all these scams and all these fraud cases, and it's all kind of like getting flushed out of the system. And now we just got a regulated a regulated Bitcoin product where any American can buy Bitcoin on the US stock market and within a regulated product. They don't have to worry about losing their keys or going on Coinbase or anything like that. You can just go to wherever you buy stocks and you can buy Bitcoin now. And most people don't know that we've been fighting the industry, the crypto industry has been fighting the government for years, and we finally won a series of 3 court cases within the last year, which kind of arguably forced the hand of the government. Thank God we're in America. I don't know where else we
Yeah.
could sue the government and win and get our way, but so that's my
This is
Bitcoin
amazing.
stuff. Yeah. I also believe that there's a lot of technology that will be applied to small businesses once the technology is stop being try to shut down by certain members within the government. Our notice mainly Elizabeth Warren. If you go check out Elizabeth Warren's page, she's running on the platform of building an anti-crypto army. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is all documented. It's just not in most people's world because you actually have to be paying attention because it's not a lot of mainstream news coverage of it.
Mhm.
It's very much a niche, small space, and but I fully anticipate on generational wealth coming from my investments in crypto.
That is so cool. I see that happening. Like if you ever, God forbid, I don't think it would happen, but if you ever get tired of the hair world, I think you would go into that probably, right?
So so like how cool would it be to be able to like um earn credit, like say every time you went to a class with salon, so any L'Oreal class, and every time you went to a conference, you went to one of the breakout rooms, and then every time you would earn these badges, which we already have
Mm,
badges, but maybe
yeah.
the badges or the points, or maybe both. Maybe you earn points and badges, and once you hit certain badges, the value of your points amplifies. Maybe 1 point becomes 1.5 points or something like that, to where it's kind of like a credit card point scheme,
Um,
or like, like the frequent diner schemes.
yeah.
Uh, Imagine if you could apply that to our industry, and like there are so many really cool ways. Like, imagine if you and I teamed up and said that we're going to share the value by rewarding people for taking our respective classes, and then we pitch in for the rewards, or we go to get sponsors to say, hey, L'Oreal, like we got people pursuing their education or continuing their education. These are like high quality people. We're training them to be leaders in the industry. We know you give out 10,000 units of a new product launch. Why don't you give us 1,000 or 500, and we'll create this little like reward store where every time you take a class with an approved, authorized educator, or take like an online class versus an in-person class, you get rewarded, and then eventually you can go and shop and get a return on that. You're making these investments, but in your return on your investment is not only the education, but it's also these points that can be in rewards that can be used in exchange for tickets and
So
products
cool.
and merch. And so that's the world of crypto that is coming, but we have to get that's probably years down the line.
But it's
So
like the
anyway,
Legend of
I
Zelda. Like it's like Zelda and Super Mario
yes.
like combined.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so I'm interested in anybody who's interested in working on a project like that. I do not have the expertise of the development side, but I know a lot about the space and the industry. But like I think that, that's like something I do later down the road if
Yeah.
someone doesn't do it first. And but I don't see myself leaving the industry.
Good. I didn't think so. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. Like once you have a taste of the beauty and barber world, like that's it. Like you
Well,
can
everyone's
just
so square.
yes, they're
Where are you gonna
so
go?
boring. Everybody's so sad all the time.
Oh
All right,
man.
so we're getting close to wrapping up. So my question is, first of all, what do you have going on right now that people can get involved with, contact you with?
Okay, so I let's see. Well, we have the show, the Hairdresser Strong show, and we interview stylists and entrepreneurs in the industry that have had various level types of success, and we ask them how they got there, how they did it, what they had to go through to get there,
Mhm.
amongst other things. But that's like basically the core of the show. And then we've kind of branched off from that, and I'm running technical cutting education, like in-person hands-on classes. From my academy days, I'm bringing academy education to the DC area because we don't have like a local academy for continuing education. So I'm starting a floating academy. So, and if anybody is interested in the DMV and getting involved in teaching, putting up some classes, hit me up. And
Yeah.
so
And
we'll do foundation.
we're gonna have that information in the show notes too.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So there's in-person classes. We call that the No Filter Workshop, where we tear down barriers to success. And then we have the Beauty Business Brunch, which is our annual event that we host every year. It's coming up May 19th. We are bringing in speakers and panelists, and we'll have like some trivia so you can like earn, like have prize. We're gonna make it fun but serious.
Yeah.
Like it started off as a boozy brunch for hairdressers, and it's been growing over the years to have some more serious business stuff, followed by some fun networking over brunch. And the topics range. We don't do any hair. The topics are range from, business, life, and community.
Mhm.
And so anything within that realm, we do workshops and have panelists talk about. And then the last thing is something new that kind of had the idea as a great way to create new relationships in the industry. I had no idea how big of an undertaking it was going to be, so I kind of bit off a little more than I could chew. But that's what we're doing right now is just breaking it into smaller pieces so that we can chew it up. But what we this whole conversation, there's core topics in this entire conversation. My entire story has kind of led to this is like young people don't know what they don't know,
Mhm.
and you can't tell them that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're probably right. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But what I do definitely think you agree with me, and I think every I'd be surprised if there's anybody in the entire industry who would disagree with this statement. The best way to find a job after school or find a job from school into the salon is to shadow at salons while you're in school. You know, back in the day, it was get a job while you're in school. But the reality is that these kids have to deal with, like the younger people have to deal with inflation and cost of living. Everything's like it's a little bit more challenging. And they also have they're not being judged by their friends to if they stay home till 24. So if you have that privilege and you can stay home longer, I think take that time and shadow. And if if that sounds good to you and you want to get that real world exposure, well, then I'm building a shadow program where we're just launching in the DMV where I'm working with salons all over the DMV. I'm gonna be like that old school like door-to-door salesman going into all the salons in the area and trying to build relationships with them and getting them to come on board. I'm not selling anything. This is all free. I'm paying for it. I'm doing all the work, but I'm hoping that it is once it's built, it shouldn't take a lot of work. It's just the
Mhm.
initial lift is going to be pretty intense, and I'm asking the salon owners all over help out with it by saying by like coming onto the platform and opening up their schedules. At least one day a week where they can students can come on through our site and they can discover local salons and that are nearby them, and then they can reach out directly to them, book directly with them through this shadow program. That's what I'm working on now.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, like I said, it's a lot. I'm actually tonight's meeting with Sammy is about drafting the paperwork for or the language to communicate with the current hosts that have already been onboarded, to let them know like what's going on, what our timeline's looking like. Um, so that's the big project that we're working on. Everyone should expect to hear about that very soon. May 19th is going to be our official like launch of it at the Beauty Business Brunch. And so in the meantime, people you should start
Mm.
seeing us put out social media content
Yeah.
and you start to see us talking about it more and maybe even using it, sampling it, and yeah, so shadow program, beauty business brunch, and the no filter workshops.
What is a question you wish I would have asked you, and what would you have responded?
A question I don't I don't know. I guess I guess one question that I think would be interesting, I think is important. It still goes back to all the stuff that I've been talking about, but um how do you handle it all? How do you like do it all?
Yeah.
I will say that I am human and I suffer from stress and burnout, like anybody else. And I do my best to protect myself by booking in R&R time. And I like to do fasts, once or twice a year where I just like, maybe pick a vice, some sort of
Yeah.
escapism, whether it's TV um, or happy hour or I don't know. Usually it's TV for me. Like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna just cut this out. Lent just started. I know when your viewers are watching this, they're not gonna Lent will be over, but that's a really good time for me to like clean house and focus. That seems to help me. It doesn't help everybody. So that I would answer it that way, and know that time blocking is really important. I use a tool called Coggle.it. You can look it up, COGGLE.it. It's a mind mapping software where you create like little branches, and it's like the project is no filter workshop, and one branch is this class, one branch is marketing, one branch is whatever. I was just working on it today, and like I've been under a lot of stress the last few
Mm.
weeks, and this mind mapping thing has really helped me really kind of expand my own understanding of all my projects. And so yeah, make sure you schedule downtime and get the support you need. If you need some sort of professional, like my wife and I have couples therapy on a regular basis. We're also business partners, so it helps a lot for that. And I'm involved with my church, and that support community is very, very powerful to me. It's changed my life, and so like support and community is very important. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be outside of the hair community. I just think you need your people,
Mhm.
and yeah.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Time is gone, but Rob, thank you so much for sharing your story, your origin story really, and inspiring me and so many of our listeners.
Thank
So,
you.
we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for taking the time and sharing my story.